To deconstruct the architecture of a multi-trillion-dollar revolution, we must start not in a boardroom, but in the trenches of a Silicon Valley Denny's. Before he was the man in the leather jacket leading the company that powers the global AI landscape, Jensen Huang was a dishwasher and a waiter. This is not just a charming anecdote to warm up the crowd, it is the foundational bedrock of his servant leadership model. It instilled a core belief that remains the anchor of Nvidia today. No task is beneath the leader. When you see Jensen today diving into the minutiae of a chip architecture or reasoning out loud to his staff, he is still that waiter, approaching every role with profound seriousness and full emotional investment. He rejects the pampering of executive life because he believes the dignity of labor and the ability to roll up one's sleeves are organizational requirements, not optional traits. This humility is balanced by an uncompromising intellectual rigor that values history over hype. Early in his career at LSI Logic, Huang's mentor, Wilfred Corrigan, established the Corrigan bias, a preference for track record over polish. When Huang first pitched Nvidia, Corrigan called it one of the worst pitches he had ever heard. Yet, he vouched for Huang to legendary investor Don Valentine with a chilling endorsement.
"Give this kid money, lose my money and I'll kill you."
Corrigan knew that a good past, a history of excellence, is a far better predictor of success than a persuasive interview or a pretty slide deck. But resilience isn't learned in success, it is forged in the fire of near extinction. To understand how Nvidia operates today, you must understand 1995. Nvidia had just launched the NV1. It was a disaster. It utilized quads for graphics while the industry standard, Microsoft's DirectX, mandated triangles. Out of 250,000 units produced, 249,000 were returned. Nvidia was exactly 30 days from bankruptcy. Facing the end, Huang performed a miracle of integrity. He went to the CEO of Sega, a key partner, and admitted that their upcoming chip, the NV2, was the wrong architecture. He asked to be let out of the contract, but then he did something audacious. He asked Sega to pay the full development fee anyway, just to keep Nvidia alive. Sega agreed. That $7 million lifeline led to the Riva 128 and saved the company. Because they had no money left for a second attempt, Huang was forced to abandon physical testing and move entirely to extreme software simulation. This one-shot necessity fundamentally changed how Nvidia designs chips today, prioritizing high-fidelity simulation over physical prototypes. If Denny's provided the heart, and the Sega crisis provided the discipline, former Intel CEO Andy Grove provided the nervous system. Huang is a disciple of Grove's strategic paranoia. He operates under the constant crushing belief that success is merely a precursor to failure. This is why, despite dominating the global market today, Huang's recurring internal mantra is that Nvidia is always 30 days from going out of business. This isn't hyperbole. It is a psychological mechanism to combat the complacency that kills giants. It is the fuel for Nvidia's strategic inflection points, allowing the company to pivot its entire architecture multiple times, most notably toward AI computing long before a market even existed. How many of you would bet your company on a market that doesn't exist yet? How do you maintain that startup agility at a global scale? You break the rules of management. In any MBA textbook, you'll find the span of control rule. A leader should have 7, perhaps 12 direct reports. Jensen Huang has 60. This is a radical, deliberate departure from traditional theory. By personally overseeing 50 to 60 senior leaders, Huang has effectively murdered middle management. His logic is piercing. The people reporting to a CEO should be at the top of their game. They should require the least amount of pampering. In Huang's world, there is no one-on-one coaching. There are no private meetings unless specifically requested. Why? Because if a strategic direction is important enough to tell one person, it is important enough to tell everyone simultaneously. He reasons out loud in front of the group, ensuring information fluidity and immediate alignment. This broadcast style turns the leadership team into a single cohesive unit, swimming in the soup of strategizing together. It is how a global enterprise maintains the agility of a three-person startup. To maintain this high bandwidth, flat organization, Huang uses two specific, unfiltered sensing tools. First is the top 5 things, T5T email system. Every week, employees from junior engineers to VPs send Huang an email outlining their raw priorities and challenges. Huang reads hundreds of these personally, looking for weak signals from the edge of the organization. Through these emails, he noticed researchers using gaming GPUs for supercomputing tasks years before the rest of the world caught on. Second is the Ransom Note syntax. Huang demands extreme concision. Internal emails must be no more than 5 or 6 lines, double-spaced, 1 sentence per line. No corporate jargon, no pretty slides. This forces intellectual honesty. If you cannot express your idea in 5 direct sentences, you likely do not understand the core logic of your problem. At the core of his decision-making is a rigorous application of first principles thinking. Huang breaks every problem down to its irreducible truths rather than relying on industry analogies. He frequently asks grounding questions. What is the point of this? What is the ideal outcome?
This leads to his signature phrase, "How hard can it be?"
It is a tool used to strip away the intimidation of massive challenges. By framing a pivot into a $0 billion market as just a study away, he fosters a culture of applied curiosity. This requires a level of intellectual honesty that would break most CEOs. Huang has been known to enter a meeting and cancel an entire department or a multi-million-dollar chip project instantly because the underlying facts changed. He has no regard for sunken costs, only for the current truth. We must also be honest about the human cost of this greatness. Nvidia is a pressure cooker, is a job we can so to stamber doing boards.
Huang has stated that he would rather torture employees into greatness than fire them, believing that intense pressure refines the character of the company. This means 7-day work weeks and meetings that routinely run until 2 a.m. It is an always-on environment.
But this pain and suffering is balanced by a financial upside that is almost unprecedented. Nvidia's stock rise has created a millionaire workforce. Approximately 80% of the 42,000 employees are millionaires. Huang personally reviews the compensation of every single employee monthly using machine learning to ensure talent is rewarded. This creates golden handcuffs. Employees endure the pressure because the mission is significant, and the rewards are life-changing.
To ensure this strategic DNA outlasts his tenure, Huang has institutionalized his philosophy through Jensen-isms. Speed of light sets the baseline for operational velocity. Mission is the boss allows a junior engineer to override a VP if the mission dictates it. We create markets is a mandate to avoid commodity work. IOFs, early indicators of future success, measures progress in markets that don't yet exist.
Through transparent reasoning, Huang doesn't just announce decisions, he shows his work, empowering his team to internalize his decision-making templates. In conclusion, Jensen Huang does not lead a hierarchy, he leads a neural network. He acts as a high-frequency sensor and processor for the entire organization. By rejecting the span of control, mandating ransom note concision, and embracing the constructive pain of perpetual innovation, he's created a company that operates with the architectural parallelism of the very chips it produces. Nvidia is a learning machine, one that reinvents itself faster than the market can change, held together by strategic paranoia and a dishwasher's sense of duty.